In other news this morning, influenza season begins in October, spikes in December, and doesn't phase out until March. That's according to the Centers for Disease Control. MTN's Jessica Nelson reports on what we need to know to tell the difference between COVID-19 and the flu.
And there are a lot of unknowns. We don't know what's going to happen.
Dr. Todd Wampler is the St. Peter's Health Medical Group president. He and his colleagues have been discussing the upcoming flu season for weeks. They have identified several elements to help them navigate both viruses.
Since both viruses are spread the same way, we assume that the same things we do to help prevent COVID spread are going to help prevent flu spread.
Which means wearing masks, washing our hands often, and keeping a safe distance from others. Those are all things we can do to avoid both COVID and the flu. But if you do get sick, Dr. Wampler says there is one symptom you should keep an eye out for.
The one symptom that seems to be unique to COVID is the loss of a sense of taste or smell. Now, that doesn't happen with everybody with COVID, and occasionally it can happen with other viruses as well. But that tends to be one symptom that kind of tips us off a little bit.
And what about the recovery timeline if you get either COVID or the flu?
The flu can definitely be a week-long illness for sure, and it tends to be a lot worse than the common cold, which will only last a few days. And definitely COVID symptoms do last a little bit longer.
There is one other significant difference between the two viruses.
There is treatment for influenza that we can give people as an outpatient. There are treatments for COVID that we will give people if they're ill enough to be in the hospital, but nothing that we can do for people if they're not sick enough to need to be in the hospital.
Dr. Wampler says the best way to prepare for flu season is to get a flu shot. Continue practicing COVID safety measures, and remember,
the only way to tell for sure whether you have one or the other is to get a test.
In Helena, Jessica Nelson, MTN News.